Joining us now is Ojinika Ojiyope, whose story is trending around the world. Hello, Jinex.
Good morning, Dr. Abati. How was your weekend? You know how to ginger my morning. Good morning, Ayo.
Good morning.
You were excellent this weekend. Congratulations on your speaker-thon. Tell us about it really quickly.
Oh, very quickly. Yes. So Rolake Filani and I started speaker, and it's to empower women with communication excellence. Over the weekend, we had the conference, the second one, and it was really great to see women come on stage, amateurs, and just take on the stage, particularly the secondary school students. They wowed us. Fantastic. Congratulations to the winners.
Perfect. You and Rufai are doing the Lord's work. I missed that. I wish I was there. Next year, I will be there. Make sure you make me one of these.
Advance notice.
Am I going to be one of your speakers?
You'll be our judge.
Our judge. Perfect. Congratulations, Ayo. Rufi on fire. How are you this morning? Fantastic. Well, all right. Good morning to you, viewers. Let's begin what's trending. Yesterday, October 20th, marked the 4th year remembrance of the NSAS protest against police brutality, which ended abruptly. The soldiers of the Nigerian army opened fire on peaceful protesters. Well, on Sunday, protesters gathered at the Lekki Tollgate area for a memorial rally to commemorate the protests of October 2020. However, police officers stationed at the tollgate arrested about 22 of the protesters, including Taiwo Soweto, one of the leaders of the End Bad Governance movement.
A group of policemen under the leadership of the Commissioner of Police in Lagos. I'm right now speaking to you.
Look at me.
From a black Maria.
I am beating and my phones are seizing.
My glasses.
I will be robbed.
The phones have been taken by the police. It was struck away from the handcuffs of our police officer without any provocation. We're asking here today, when the right to commemorate the dead have become illegal criminalized in this country.
If you're not making $158,000 per year, but you'd like to, I strongly...
Well, hours after that incident, the Lagos State Police Command released all the arrested protest human rights lawyer Inibehe Effiong, who facilitated their release, made the announcement in a post on X stating that we have secured the release of all 22 activists who were arrested this morning at the Lekki Tollgate while commemorating the 4th anniversary of the Lekki massacre. We had a discussion with the Commissioner of Police, who came over to the state CID in respect of the matter. The items seized from the protesters were also returned to them. I mean, I know you guys had Inibehe Effiong earlier. I'm not sure if he actually reported the story of one of the protesters, Thomas Olamide, who claimed that upon her release, 15,500 naira was missing from her wallet, which initially held 25,000 naira. I mean, this was a horrendous incident that took place yesterday. Shameful. The police, I mean, they need to respond to that actual allegation. Let me take this tweet from Prince, who wrote, "People beaten, arrested and thrown inside a Black Maria by the Nigerian police for holding a banner and a wreath to lay at the Lekki Tollgate to commemorate the NSAS Lekki Tollgate massacre. This injustice will not be tolerated, neither will it be cowed." Update on the NSAS #memorial. Well, again, the incident was horrendous. It was uncalled for. It's the same thing that is happening over and over again. 4 years after that dreadful, dreadful incident that occurred October 2020. Let's take Dr. Abati's comment on this, since this is illegal.
Okay, the first point to make is that the right to protest is constitutional. We have had, lawyers on this program, and also yesterday on another program, saying that Section 39 guarantees your freedom of expression. To say that people cannot protest will amount to stifling their right to speak. Now, the decided case, the locus classicus in this regard, is Inspector General of Police versus ANPP, a 2007 case, where Adeke GCA, as she then was, made the point that the Public Order Act is unconstitutional.
Right.
That the police has an obligation to protect anybody who wants to protest, and that you don't need to ask for a police permit. There has been no other ruling since 2007 varying that. So for the Commissioner of Police in Lagos to say that the protesters in Lagos did not ask for police permit, he acted ultra vires. And, in Abuja, it was a similar situation when the people who came out to protest were tear gassed. So the police, we need to take their cue from all of this, and they need to be properly advised. The second issue is, the memory of the people who died, people who were injured, families who were left in agony on account of the fact that the Nigerian government could not address police brutality. So that memorial was from that context. Number three, that the demands of the protesters up to this moment have not been met. They asked, for example, for psychiatric examination for anybody that is carrying a gun in Nigeria. How do we know whether there has been psychiatric examination? The only concrete thing that government has done has been disbanding NSAS as a unit.
Yeah.
But that has not ended police brutality. Yeah. You bring stories here now of policemen, dragging steering wheel with people, of shooting people, indiscriminately, and claiming not to know how it happened. So there are issues, there are challenges that still need to be addressed. Pelumi Unifade, the mother, Mrs. Bosse Unifade, is saying that the family deserves to see the corpse of their son, who was killed in Agege, a suburb of Ikeja, 4 years ago. So there are still unresolved issues. The ultimate point will be how to ensure good governance in this environment, that the police are considered truly the friend of the citizen, and not that the police are accused of being brutish against the average citizen. There are issues to still be resolved.
All right, thank you for highlighting, the legal aspects of that, the Constitution. Rufai, the fact that, these people were beaten. Yeah. Beaten. We heard that End Bad Governance protester alluding to that fact. I mean, what is going on in this country?
So, it speaks volumes.
Yeah.
And we've all been affected one way or the other. You remember, I think it was the second year anniversary that Femi's incident happened, that the police officer was trying to push Femi, and there was tear gas and with Sheita and all of that. And it just shows how the police behave. So I did ask Inibe a very important question. I said, should we have a complete overhaul, or we should bring about reforms? He was talking about reform. But you see, if you watch a Channels documentary done many years ago, and you see the deplorable state of the police college, you cannot go out of Nigeria police. Miracles.
I want to buy your house. I can pay you cash for your house, no matter what condition it's in. If you need to sell
for people that conduct. So the deplorable situation in which our police force passes through in their training is one. Secondly, the welfare system. Thirdly, the societal malaise itself and what the society has become, because most of these police officers, they see the politicians enjoying the big life and they see that they've got recourse to nothing. Furthermore, when you look at even the case of this boss akin to Black Maria, I remember when lawyers have protested constantly against this Black Maria, that it dehumanizes the person.
Right.
But mostly, this police officer should remember that just like June 12th was demonized those days, today is a public holiday. At some point, you have a government in the future that will recognize what happened and memorialize it. So all of this demonization will not take us anywhere. And you need to be able to respect the rights of people. That's why Amnesty International has come out to say that this was a very deplorable act and the police should not do it. I would like to also talk about that money incident. I think Ben Ode was asking Enibe Effiong, and I wanted to ask that question, but it was just an oversight.
Yeah.
What really happened to that lady's money? I think they should be able to. But before Enibe Effiong answers that question at some point, maybe in his tweet, Ben too should tell us what happened. Has the money been returned what has happened as regards that so that we can have a complete integrity. But this is needless. I look forward to a day where government officials will hold hands with protesters and they will memorialize this day in this country. And that day will come. It might not be now, but it will come at some point.
All right. Well said, Rufai. Well, in the meantime, tragedy struck Awka South local government area of Anambra State on Sunday as a brutal attack by masked gunmen claimed numerous lives during the Onwa Asa Festival, a traditional community celebration. The assailants, reportedly driving in black Lexus SUVs, stormed an eatery in the community and opened fire indiscriminately, leaving several people dead. Well, according to eyewitnesses who spoke to This Day, at least 16 people were confirmed dead, with fears that the death toll may rise. Ayo, I mean, look at what we are seeing in the southeast, in the east. We're still seeing this sort of massacre going on in East.
It's very sad. There are many angles. Number one is that when we look at festivals, we've been talking about tourism, encouraging tourism. We've even given suggestions to the president a few days back as to some places you could visit in the country and how Nigeria could be a tourist destination. Part of attracting people to the nation is festivals like this. However, one of the things that keeps coming up when we talk about tourism and festivals is the security situation and the lack of security, or shall I say insecurity, in certain parts of the nation that discourage people from visiting or going to these places. The Southeast, Anambra State in particular, has been notorious. If it's not the sit at home, which is still dicey, is it still happening on Mondays or not? It's the unknown gunmen, it's people who are causing mayhem and havoc in the lives of the citizens. A number of people should account for this. Number one is the police, and then the governor of the state. He's the chief security officer of the state and should be able to opening gunfire on the festival makers. That has not been clear. It's not clear why. There's no reason why. Just mindless killing. Nigeria cannot be the United States of America, where we wake up one morning and someone decides that he's not feeling well and decides to shoot people all around. This has to be arrested. It has to be investigated. By now, there ought to have been leads as to what happened. These men are many times, they are members of the community. Community members have intelligence information or have information that could lead to the arrest of these men. So maybe this is an appeal as well to people who know these men to go out there. 16 people confirmed dead. It cannot go unnoticed. So I'm just raising just that flag in the southeast, in Anambra State, to be especially that they have to deal with insecurity. People dying mindlessly is a shame, and it casts a pall on what should have been a joyous ceremony, a joyous festival.
Absolutely, this is pure terrorism. Pure terrorism at most. Well, again, we're calling on security forces. May their souls rest in peace. Let's take another story. The Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, during an event in Rivers State over the weekend, aimed digs at his political opponents. Wike said that he refused to support Peter Obi for the 2023 presidential election, despite his team lobbying for support. Neither did he support Atiku Abubakar because he wanted equity and fairness. Wike maintained that he has no regret for supporting President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, while boasting that his political enemies will not emerge victorious in 2027. Take a look.
We have no regret at all for supporting President Asiwaju Bola Tinubu.
Yes, sir.
I have no regret. All these things you are seeing, there's Atiku group, there's P2B group, and there's some few governors of PDP who believe I'm a problem to them, and I will continue to be a problem to them. The Atiku group believe that I and my team stop them from becoming president. We stopped injustice. All we wanted was equity, fairness, and what? Obi's group, they lobbied me so much, they cannot deny it. And I said, look, this one won't fly. River State will not go to where I will not know it won't fly. Let me tell all of you, all these people combined, they will lose. urgency will come back, they will do what? They will lose.
The cost of prescription drugs in California can be devastating, but health is finally on the
All right, Emperor Wike, these people will lose. You know, there's been responses. Atiku has said that he won't descend into the gutters to exchange words with Wike. I believe there was also a statement that was released by his spokesperson saying that Wike and his collaborators are playing politics with the sufferings of Nigerians. Dr. Abati, over to you.
You know, many years ago, when I used to teach, before I diverted into this chit-chats that we're doing journalism, I used to teach a course called Comedy and Other Comic Forms. And when we teach comedy, the lowest form of comedy is buffoonery or burlesque or farce. But the worst level of comedy is buffoonery. So what I see, Minister Wike putting up in this Naija Matter is the equivalent of a political buffoonery.
Oh my goodness!
And you will not be, you see how he does it. All these bodily contortions. He will twist this way. He will twist that way. He will have voice inflection. Pure political entertainment that will even make good theater. And he has with him a good audience there who just occasionally laugh as if they have been mechanically programmed. And these are supposed to be adults also. But in any case, let's go beyond the theory of comedy to talk about, okay, what is the point what is the point that he's making? He's just saying he's the Lord and Master of River State politics. And he's been consistent in that regard to say, look, anybody that comes to his territory, he will deal with the person. The only point that Waziri Adamawa Atiku made was that the local government election in which APP won 22 out of the 23 seats has shown, indicated that Wike had lost relevance in Rivers State. And then he had this repost to say it's Atiku Abubakar who has lost relevance because in Rivers, PDP was not involved in any case, and that Atiku Abubakar is someone who had who ran for an election and lost, and that is the one who is a serial loser who should pack his bag and go. Well, that's just political talk. But I would like a situation whereby the politicians talk more, not about personal ambition, not about being emperor, but the good that they can do for the people, the common good.
Yes.
In the conversation, we have pushed common good to the background. And that's why you find, these politicians are always ready to clap, always ready to laugh. When somebody who says he's the emperor, induces them with rhetoric and with whatever other else, that we may not be privy to, that we should get some level of seriousness. Otherwise, it's just political entertainment of the Nigerian variety. I know they do political entertainment in other places too, but we seems to be at the lowest end of the comedic spectrum.
Well said, Dr. Abati. Well, meanwhile, former Anambra State Governor Peter Obi has come under fire on social media after celebrating former military head of state Yakubu Gowon, who turned 90 over the weekend. Obi, in a post on X on Saturday, extolled Gowon, saying that his life of service to our great nation, Nigeria, stands as one of sacrifice, leadership, and unity, his sweet read in part. In a time of hate, you stood for love. At a time of strife, you stood for peace. At a time of division, you stood for unity. Your steadfast commitment to preserving the peace and sovereignty of Nigeria during a challenging period in our history will forever be remembered and revered. Your exemplary leadership and statesmanship remain an inspiration to younger and many generations of Nigerians. Well, Peter Obi's birthday wishes to Gowon was heavily criticized by a cross-section of Nigerians who blame Gowon's regime for the death of millions of Biafrans. Well, in a follow-up post on Sunday, Peter Obi defended his message, saying that he needed to demonstrate to the world that true heroism lies in forgiving the enemy and moving forward. Well, his tweet reads in part, indisputably, the darkest part of our 64-year journey as a nation is the 30 months of civil war from 1967 to 1970. And God Almighty, whose way is not our way, must have a reason why he kept the chief prosecutor of the war, who is General Gowon, alive, to be 90 years today, and the man who saw the end of the war, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, to be there at 87 years, superheading all the moves to see a reconciled and just Nigeria. There was also a developing new spirit, while the same country, Nigeria, gave the Biafra leader, Dim Chukwuemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu, a heroic national burial on 2nd March 2012, when he joined his ancestors, coincidentally, under my tenure as governor of Anambra State. The status of the burial given to Dim Ojukwu remains the boldest indication to the world that Nigeria as a country is disposed to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation. Well, let me take one of the reactions that went viral after Peter Obi put out that tweet on Saturday. This is from George. He wrote, "He sacrificed millions of your own people for unity. Unity without cohesion and love is a disservice to humanity." I mean, I believe Peter Obi also in the tweet he put out on Saturday did mention that his father died during the Civil War. Let me take another tweet from Dr. Maduka, who wrote, "Peter Obi, why are you this desperate? You are so desperate you can't speak the truth to power. Gowon that attacked Biafra and killed millions of Indigbo, including deliberately starving to death millions of innocent children of Biafra, is the man you said stood for peace and stood for love. You are one of those that have enslaved Indigbo." This reaction was also one of those reactions that, was trending when they said, they're saying that Peter Obi is so desperate and that's why he had to, congratulate Yakubu Gowon in the manner that he did. But, he talked about reconciliation a lot. Let me take another tweet from Pablox, who wrote,
"The biggest companies in the world are willing to pay big bucks for anyone who's able to code. And you may
those involved made peace, but children of anger who weren't born in that era are still holding on to the war. In war, people win or lose. They die or live. Daily you ask God and your neighbor for forgiveness, but your heart is filled with bitterness and evil for others." Well, this Pablox had posted a picture of General Yakubu Gowon and the late Ojukwu. And with that caption, they wrote, "Wartime enemies, Emeka Ojukwu and Yakubu Gowon reconcile at the former residence in Enugu 40 years after the end of the Nigerian Civil War 2010. #history vile." But like you saw in his second part of the tweet, why he praised Gowon. He talked about the fact that, we should continue to remain steadfast in our forgiveness. And as you saw also in that picture that I put out, Rufai, General Yakubu Gowon and Ojukwu actually met 40 years after.
Definitely they did meet. So a couple of things. I mean, I see the reaction from a lot of people against what Peter Obi said. Yes, because of the Civil War. And the magnitude of the pain of the Civil War has not gone away. In fact, when you hear some people say, they speak about life before and after the Civil War. And we should never forget the incident that led to the Civil War. We should never forget that there was an elections in 64 to 65 that opened the doors for the Civil War. And apart from Ojukwu and Gowon was just that prosecutor, and Ojukwu was head of the Eastern region when the war finally started, was the real political actors and what they did from 1960 to about the 64 elections. And all the shenanigans they did. Don't forget, it was also that time we had Wetie in the Wild Wild West, as it was called. And when you look at what happened after the Civil War, the reintegration has not been complete. A lot of people, Igbos have a right to complain. The marginalization is still there. And that's why people like me campaigned heavily for an Igbo presidency in the last election, so that we can have a balancing axis where we return to democracy. Oji, apart from the things that are said or not said, my greatest fear is that the way our politicians behaved in the 60s that led to the Civil War, most of our politicians are still behaving like that till today. The sad reality on ground is today is the fact that we have not led anything for the Civil War. And if care is not taken, we can repeat the mistakes of the past easily. And that's my greatest fear. It's not what has been said or not been said. I mean, there are arguments across on both sides. The Gowon camp too can make the argument that, okay, where did the first plane jacking happen that led to the war? Who shot the first bullet that led to the war and all of that? We can go back and forth. Nigerians were killed in that civil war. People were killed from the Eastern region, which was wrong, which was abhorrent. But the problem is, close to 50 years after Orji, we are still making those mistakes that we made that led us to a civil war. Take, for instance, look at one of this political class that Dr. Bati was talking about this morning. People that feel that they're larger than life, that they control estates when there are people there that vote in elections in the states. And look at them. Look at the political class. Look at the pain and hardship that's happening in Nigeria today. Look at some people feeling that it's all about them. Look at the ethnic baiting that happened at the last elections. Look at what happened in Lagos and other parts of the country. Look at how we still vote. The political leaders then share a lot of blame. And how did they do it then? They used media to confuse the minds of a lot of people. Most of our top political founding fathers had media outfits. Don't forget that. They were owners of newspapers. And with them, they sipped into our consciousness this ethnic malaise we have today. So my fear is that many years, and I like the reconciliation picture you put out.
Yeah. I thought it was
many years, Gowon and Ojukwu had their own personal beef, even after Aburi, pre-Aburi and after Aburi. We have a new political class that have not learned lessons from those wars. I mean, Gowon is still around, Ojukwu is long gone. But we have a political class that have not learned lessons from those wars, and that's my sad part in all of this.
Well, I think that there is wisdom in forgiveness. There's wisdom in reconciliation. I mean, happy birthday to Yakubu Gowon. He turned 90. And, you know, I guess that the story out there for a lot of our young people, the history that was removed from the past, I guess they can go ahead and read up on the history of Nigeria and the Civil War. Well, it's good that Peter Obi has called for forgiveness. Well, let's celebrate now. The annual Ofala Festival, which celebrates the best of African culture in southeastern Nigeria, has made the rounds on social media. Let's take a look.
Guys, I'm about to cash a check for $180,000 and get my entire...
Oh, that was beautiful. I mean, we did have the Ojude Baba festival recently. That was beautiful to see. But this festival is, you know, it's a unique one because I believe, you know, it celebrates the best of African culture and, you know, it is for honoring the Igwe Alfred Nnameka Achebe, the traditional ruler of Ime Obi Kingdom in Anambra State. And the theme of the festival was courage, perseverance, and self-resilience, which reflects the Igwe's message of hope and resilience amidst prevailing hardship in the country. I mean, great celebration. I believe it ends on Wednesday. And, you know, it's nice to see that, you know, amidst the war in the Southeast, there is still celebration. Well, in Jigawa State, Governor Umar Namadi has suspended the state's commissioner for special duties, Anwar Sankara, over an alleged affair with a married woman. On Friday, the Kano State Hisbah Board said Sankara was arrested at an uncompleted building over an alleged illicit affair with a married woman in Kano. While reacting to the allegation in a statement, the commissioner dismissed it as false, malicious, and baseless. Sankara vowed to take legal action against those behind the allegations, adding that their aim was to damage his reputation. Dr. Bati, I mean, this is the story coming out of Jigawa State. I know that, Jigawa just faced a huge tragedy where over 170 people lost their lives. And we are seeing the governor here concerning himself over marital issues.
Well, it's as follows.
Yes.
The state government is saying that, look, this incident is going to affect the reputation of the state government. Now, the state government has set up a 5-man panel to investigate, what has happened. Secondly, the commissioner affected, his commissioner for special duties, he has also been suspended. Now, in the northern part of the country, allegations of adultery is taken very seriously. It's considered a felony. And under the penal code, which is the law operating in northern Nigeria, sections 387 and 388. The punishment for adultery is 2 years imprisonment and or, fine. Fine is not even an option. And this is the ISPA Police Board saying that they found this commissioner, although he has denied it, in an uncompleted building with a married woman. Now, the issue here is that they are saying that it was even the woman's husband, Bulama, a certain Mr. Bulama, and the brother who reported to the police, reported to the ISBA board, and reported to the government that this man had been concocting his wife. Cocodry, as I have pointed out, is a serious issue in northern Nigeria, and I've specified the punishment under penal code. However, in the southern part of Nigeria, adultery is not a criminal offense. It can be a ground for divorce under Section 15 of the Matrimonial Causes Act, Section 15, sub 2. It can also, if your wife has been taken from you, the offense is seduction. All these people who are talking with people's wives, up and down, we keep telling them, leave another man's wife. The man can sue you under Section 31 of the Matrimonial Causes Act and ask for compensation. And the compensation will be that, well, you have been this way. That is the situation in southern Nigeria. But in the north, adultery is a serious offense.
Absolutely. Well said, Dr. Abati. Well, all right. We'll head over to the United States now, where Vice President Kamala Harris turned 60 on Sunday, making campaign stops at black churches in Georgia, as her 70-year-old opponent, Donald Trump, served French fries at McDonald's in Pennsylvania as he tried to appeal to blue-collar voters.
Don't trade alone. Trade with me live using one simple strategy, and I'll help you get results. For example,
never touches the human hand.
Very good.
Nice and full.
Thank you.
This is fun. I could do this all day. I wouldn't mind this job. I like this job. I think I might come back and do it again. Thank you. Compliments of Trump, okay?
Yes, thank you. Mr. President, please don't let the United States become Brazil, my native Brazil.
We'll keep it good.
Please.
We're going to make it better than ever, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure, Mr.
Compliments of Trump.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you over there.
Oh my God.
Have a good time.
Are you going to use the
Well, music legend Stevie Wonder accompanied Harris at one of her appearances in a suburb of Atlanta, singing a special rendition of Happy Birthday while urging voters to vote for Harris. Let's take a look. Well, happy birthday to Kamala Harris. I also want to wish my producer, Antonia, a happy birthday. She is wonderful, beautiful girl who has been doing so well on What's Trending. But that's French fries. Two powerful women. Well done, Antonia. But that French fries was epic.
Oh, Chief of Staff's
birthday is today. There are implications. Happy birthday, Antonia. But the French fries, my girl as always. Well, I wish we had time to chat. I wanted you to say something about Donald Trump and his French fries.
Yes, he was trying to show that he can connect with, with the common people, ordinary people in Nigeria, but I don't think that hit anyone.
You don't think it worked? Well, all right. I'd like to thank you all for your great analysis, as always, on What's Trending. Well, That's all I have for you guys on What's Trending today. I'll see you all tomorrow.
Reactions have continued to trail the statement by Nigeria's former head of state, General Yakubu Gowon, retired, that the country's civil war of 1967 to 1970 was fought to keep the country together and not a question of defeating any part of the country. He made the statement in commemoration of his 90th birthday, which was celebrated by dignitaries and political bigwigs across the country. Speaking at the birthday Thanksgiving service held in his honor at the National Christian Center in Abuja, Gowon said the war was fought to unite the country as one entity and ensure the reintegration of the eastern region with the rest of the country. Well, for this conversation, we now turn to Kenneth Okonkwo, a lawyer and politician. He will examine whether the purpose of fighting the Civil War has been achieved 54 years after it ended. How truly united is Nigeria now? What are the headwinds against Nigeria's unity, and does the national rally its people towards a united country? Good to have you again on Arise News. Thanks for joining us on Newsday.
If you're not making $158,000 per year, but you'd like to, I strongly...
Thank you very much for inviting me, and thanks the viewers for joining us.
So let's start, with your thoughts on the comments made by General Yakubu Gowon that the Nigerian Civil War was fought to keep the country together and that it was not really about defeating any part of the country. What do you make about this? What do you make over this?
Well, first of all, we must understand that war in itself is a display of anarchy. When you talk about war, that is lawlessness at its peak. So when you say you are fighting war to keep Nigeria one, no. You fought the war as a manifestation of your incompetence in the management of the crisis that was then part of Nigerian history. And let me explain what I mean. Before independence, the colonial power, Britain, they kind of brainwashed the Nigerian people to maintain their ethnic cleavages. And they needed to make Nigerians live in that disunity so that they could continue their colonization against Nigeria. So they made the North, for instance, to believe that being educationally disadvantaged, they should not rush into independence because of the likelihood that they will be dominated by the more advanced southern Nigeria. And the North bought into that. And that was why we were delayed from 1954 to 1960. But the actual thing is that Britain just wanted more time to dominate Nigeria. So after independence, that mindset that the South is likely to dominate them remained. And the North was always at every slightest chance, reminding the South that we did not intend to be one country with you because we are suspecting your domination. But the 1966 military coup, pure military coup, has nothing to do with ethnicity or anything, even though people who organized it were predominantly from one ethnic group. But that reinforced the belief by the North that these people, we said it, they want to dominate us. And then they carried out a revenge coup in 1966 July, which was meant actually to separate from Nigeria, not to keep Nigeria one. But the Britain also reminded them that the resources are in the East. So if you leave Nigeria, we are going to support the East. So you better run now that you have acquired power to maintain Nigeria as one. And that made them to have a rethink. And by that time, a lot of Igbos, for instance, have been killed during the pogrom, during the massacre. So there was an entrenched suspicion between the ethnic groups. And this led them to go to Aburi for a conference, and they reached agreement. And it was still Gowon who came back and reneged on the agreement, which inevitably led to the bitter war. And after the war, Gowon declared again, no victor, no vanquished, and promised to reconcile, rehabilitate, and reconstruct the Southeast, which he failed again to do. So all the available opportunities for him to make Nigeria one and consolidate that unity, he was not able to do. But let us make one point clear.
A lot of people tell us, you finally explained trading to me in a way I could understand. Then they start seeing profits. The reason behind this is simple. We're not your typical Wall Street stockbrokers. We are a father and son team on a mission to help.
That after a while, when he himself was thrown away by some of those his colleagues, that was when maybe he recognized that what happened in 1966 was a military coup and not any ethnic coup, because he himself was thrown away by the same military people. I wonder which terminology we use to describe the ones who threw him away. But one thing is clear. After that, it looks as if he went into theology, had a rebirth, and he came back and genuinely went through our Southeast apologizing and asking for forgiveness for his role in the Civil War. And we know that though the Southeast has been marginalized and ill-treated in that war, which was not caused by them, we know that Gowon has tried to make certain types of penance. We should forgive each other because hostilities need not last forever. So I can submit respectfully that ethnic chauvinism, the youthful exuberance of the military young chaps that took over government, who were actually very impressionable at that age, their inability to manage the crisis contributed in the disunity that resulted in the Civil War. We must learn to forget and to forgive so that we will move ahead as one united Nigeria. I remember what Ojukwu said when he came back from exile. He said, we had fought one civil war. We don't need to fight another one. That he is going to go to war to fight if Nigeria is ever threatened again. And I stand by that. Nigeria being the hope of the black man, Nigeria being the hope of Africa, Nigeria being blessed, and in our enlightened self-interest, the capabilities and blessings of Nigeria will be better harnessed if we come together, live together under one united Nigeria. Nigeria based on equity, unity, peace, and justice. Nigeria will achieve its aims. I support the opinion that we should move ahead now as one united Nigeria, and I'm willing to fight if Nigeria is threatened. Let me point out that presently in Nigeria, what is causing disunity is no longer ethnic chauvinism and religious fanaticism. It is now the incompetence and corruption of the leaders of Nigeria that have inflicted hunger, hardship, degradation, deprivation on the citizens, making them too poor. And when you're poor, even to adhere to theology is very difficult because there's no reception to theology when a man is hungry. An angry man is a hungry man. A hungry man is an angry man and is easily irritated no matter what. So the threats to our unity today is poverty, which is orchestrated by the incompetence and corruption of the ruling class. World Bank report just gave a report that more than 129 million Nigerians are poor. And fuel price is down 1,000. And Naira has been depreciated to the point that you have 1,700 and something Naira per dollar. And you can see electricity. In 1 week, we have celebrated more than 3 national grid collapse. And some people are still pretending that they are the leaders of Nigeria. No, they are leaders of darkness, not leaders of light. And they are now the greatest source of our disunity. And let me point out, free and fair election is the only solution to our disunity now. Because if we have the ability to choose our leaders in a free, fair, credible, verifiable periodic election, then we will say that our will be imposed on the leadership of Nigeria, and they will give us the dividends of democracy. Anything short of that is going to threaten the existence of this country, not because of ethnic chauvinism or religious fanaticism, but because you cannot sustain a diverse people living together in abject poverty.
Permit me to come in on this point. And I like your oratory prowess.
when articulating what Nigeria should be as a unified entity. But if that is the case, why is it that Mr. Peter Obi, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, someone you know very well, is being almost forced to explain his congratulatory message to General Gowon? Because the likes of Simon Ekpa and several others are saying because he's desperate for power, he's beginning to cower. Some are saying that he's desperate to become president, so he's now going soft and he's trying to belong. Hence, he's doing what he's doing, and he's trying to explain the reason why. That's to show that probably we do not see ourselves as one.
The cost of prescription drugs in California can be devastating, but health is finally.
Well, let me say that all the protests, all the agitations you're seeing Nigerian over, like I said, they are results of manifestation of marginalization, manifestation of injustice, manifestation of poverty. And it is everywhere in Nigeria. You just have the Yoruba nation agitators who submitted letter to the Prime Minister of Britain that they want a separrait country. You can see that Boko Haram is
route. What I want to find out from you is why is Mr. Obi's statement of congratulations to General Gowon hitting up the polity is the big question. If we see ourselves as one Nigeria.
Well, you should be prepared to ask Obi that when you see him. I've always said that it is good for a leader to always think before he talks. In other words, before you make a statement, it must be a statement you have thought through, and you should be able to stand by it. You should not be, a fair weather kind of leader that when they push you this side, you will explain. When they push you this side, you will explain. You should be able to articulate your view at any point and stand by it. However, like I said, no human being is infallible. He does not need to explain if he is sure what he's saying, that he believes in it. But if he needed to explain and he explained, then you should hold him responsible for his own actions and for his own words. Let me tell you something. I believe in unity of Nigeria. I believe General Gowon made a whole lot of mistakes because he himself prevaricated on a lot of things that would have prevented the war, even when they were by his own initiation. And so when you say Peter Obi made a statement and then he's clarifying, there's nothing wrong in clarification. However, there is a need to always be sensitive and then be sure of the statement you want to make so that you don't begin to want to pander on all sides. I've always said it is good to stand on one side and then whatever consequences it is, then you take it. I don't have anything against anybody saying anything. It's a free word, freedom of expression, but you should be able to stand by your word. I don't think it has anything to do with the unity of Nigeria, because what Nigerians are looking out for now, like I said, is competent leaders of capacity. So if he expressed his opinion and withdrew it or modified it, that is his right to do, and he's entitled to it.
Now, Mr. Okonkwo, you said earlier, that the factors dividing Nigeria is not ethnic or religious affiliated, but you said corruption and bad leadership. Yes. However, some analysts, believe politicians usually use the divide and rule tactic. They use ethnicity, they use religion, to divide Nigerians in order to win election, like we witnessed in 2023. So how can Nigerians, as a people, how can the electorate rise above this very common gimmick?
I want to buy your house. I can pay you cash for your house, no matter what condition it's in.
Very good. Now, let me first of all agree with you that part of the incompetence of these leaders is having no policies to use to convince the people. They resort to such primordial sentiments. And that's why I'm saying that it is no longer part of our problem. Why am I saying that? The present president threw up all the ethnic cards, a Miloko, and I don't know how to speak all this, so let me not speak the one that will nail me here. But I always hear of Yoruba Ronu, I don't even know what it means. However, after doing all those things, he lost his state. After saying Muslim ticket, he did not even impress anybody. He still had the least votes as in relative to the opposition. So they exploit that tendency, but Nigerians have outgrown that. They win by rigging, they win by electoral violence, manipulation, and corruption. They don't win anymore by ethnic sentiments and religious fanaticism. That's what I'm saying. That the problem we have now is that their corruption of not being able to organize free and fair election, abuse of public power for private gain. It is no longer ethnic. I mean, you can't go to the north and tell a northerner now that you're a Muslim and he should vote for you because you're a Muslim. After what he is suffering now under a Muslim ticket, you can't go to anybody in the south, in the southwest, and say, vote for me because I'm from southwest. That is where the Abing power came. So I agree with you that some of these leaders, because they don't have anything, any policy to show to the people, they try to exploit such primordial sentiments. But they are fading away, even as these incompetent and corrupt leaders are fading away out of the hemisphere of Nigeria. Nigerians must rise in the interest of a united Nigeria, for the sake of the black man, for the sake of Africa, and for the sake of all of us, knowing that our diversity is our strength, knowing that united we stand, knowing that we will achieve economy of scale if we are together. Let me give you an example. If this country is divided into 6, what it means is that each of those 6 must have their own army, air force, navy, police, differently, meaning it will cost us 6 times to govern Nigeria what is costing us now once. Do you think the British, they are not wise when they amalgamated the South and the North? They did not tell us that the reason is so that they will achieve lesser cost of governance. And it has nothing to do with trying to make us to live together. We should take advantage of that. Take advantage of economy of scale. Take advantage that when we live together under rule of law, there is no challenge we will not overcome. We are building a more progressive and perfect union as we go on. It is a process. It's not an incident. Building a more perfect union. Even United States, they are still progressing in building their union. So whatever challenges we have, every Nigerian should know that it's surmountable and should not always be thinking about dividing Nigeria and separating Nigeria. We are a united nation, indissoluble and indissolvable under God. And we should move on in that capacity.
Do some Igbos share this sentiment will be the big question. Because for those who went through the war and those who were told about the war, maybe the Generation X might not be able to relate. But when you talk to every Igbo trader in Nigeria, I mean, maybe in Lagos, for example, and you talk to probably upwardly mobile Igbo men in their 50s, their 60s, they do not share the sentiment because hence we have people that are sympathetic to the causes of Nnamdi Kanu, apologies for the likes of Simon Ekpa. They still have a lot of cult following. Talk to us about it, because when you speak like this, you seem to almost ignore the fact that when you look to your left, you look to your right, there are people that still believe that they have been wronged and that one day, they will still go to utopia.
The biggest companies in the world are willing to pay big bucks for anyone who's able to code. And you may think...
Good. Now, first of all, I am a Nigerian from Igbo extraction, and I'm very proud of that. You just said we are traders. Yes, we are traders and we are travelers. And so always there will have to be a preference between, for a larger space for anybody who by nature and nurture is a traveler and is a trader. And so in our enlightened interest, I know it as a fact that we will prefer a larger space because our nature demands that. Our nurture demands that. In Igbo land, there is a proverb. And again, in Igbo land, there is a proverb that onye ije ka onye isi awọ akụkọ. And again, so these are the things that will make an Igbo man to travel out of his comfort zone, no matter how comfortable he is. And having that nature, I am telling you, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe preferred a united Nigeria. Ojukwu preferred a united Nigeria. Kenneth Okonkwo preferred a united Nigeria. Because I know, as a matter of fact, that as a trader and as a traveler by nature, it will be better for us as Ndi Igbo. Ndi Igbo are agents of development, and they go about carrying development to anywhere they go to. I recall what Buba Mawa said when we were in a presidential campaign. Buba Mawa stood on a pulpit and said the only true Nigerians who believe in Nigeria, they are Ndi Igbo, because everywhere you will see them. And when you see them, they build their homes there and they live there and develop there. It was quite unfortunate that before 1966, our quest for developing anywhere we stay was manipulated and misconstrued to be a quest for domination. I am happy it's no longer in the minds of Nigerians to think in that pattern and in that formula. Because I remember one old man from Kanu. He said during the June 12th, when the Igbos left north, he couldn't find a part, I think Yakasai, he couldn't find one spare part he needed to repair his car. And he said, let's face it, we need each other. In this country, we need each other, especially in the Igbo, who are the agents of development. I told you before that what is threatening our unity now is the incompetence and corruption. What is happening in Lagos? Why are Igbos feeling uncomfortable? Because there are some people like Bayo Nonuga who will tell you Igbos are aliens in Lagos. Can you imagine? Aliens in Yoruba land. Somebody being an alien in his own country. Is that not the incompetence and corruption I'm talking about? Abuse of public power for private gain. If you cannot convince the Yorubas to vote for you when you are a Yoruba man, you have failed. If you need to vilify another ethnic group, these are the things that are bringing about the sentiments of marginalization and the instigation of people saying, let us have our own home if you cannot guarantee our safety in the general Nigerian country. And this is what I'm saying, that we must sit down to ensure that our country is built on equity, justice, and fairness. And you will see that every Nigerian will prefer to be a Nigerian. I am a movie actor. That's my primary constituency. Where we started Nollywood was in Lagos. And you know what? It was an Igbo film that was shot in Lagos. And the whole Nigerians accepted it. If they had anything against Ndi Igbo, they would not appreciate that movie, Living in Bondage. And that's actually remade my mind that, look, nobody is interested in marginalizing anybody. Spirit of excellence cannot be rejected, no matter where it comes from and from whoever it comes from. Well, so we must learn to be excellent in this country, excellent in leadership, excellent in whatever we do, so that we will be acceptable by everybody we are living with. Togetherness, it shall be the key, and one Nigeria should be supported. It's worth living for, and if need be, it's worth dying for.
It's been a very interesting time, speaking with you on Newsday. We do appreciate you honoring our invitation today. Kenneth Okonkwo, lawyer and politician, thank you so much for joining us on Newsday.
Police in Lagos clashed with protesters on Sunday today as they attempted to mark the 4th anniversary of the EndSARS movement, which gained global attention in October 2020. Officers deployed tear gas to disperse demonstrators who had gathered at the Lekki toll gate around 8:30 a.m., waving banners and placards demanding the full implementation of recommendations from various judicial panels established under or after the initial protest. The #EndSARS protest began as a movement against police brutality, particularly by the disbanded Special Anti-Robbery Squad. The protest peaked at the Lekki toll gate, where reports of violence and fatalities emerged following an intervention by security forces, including the military. Despite promises of reform and accountability, many of the judicial panel's recommendations are yet to be implemented, leaving protesters disillusioned. For a conversation about the EndSARS Memorial and other human rights issues in Nigeria, I'm now being joined by human rights lawyer and activist Deji Adeyanju. Deji Adeyanju, thank you very much for joining us on this Live Sunday Talk Show. Well, first,
it's a pleasure.
Thank you very much indeed. Now, the state police commander in Lagos today, where we had the incident of persons being arrested, as in Soweto and 17 others, were told by their lawyer that they have now been released. But the police commissioner was quoted as saying that they didn't take permission, they didn't seek police clearance, and that they had been warned that there should be no protests at the Lekki toll gate without police clearance. Now, do people need police clearance to protest, to demonstrate? Is the police commissioner correct?
At all. At all. People do not need police permit or protection of any sort if they choose or they elect not to do so. In fact, the police is under obligation, according to provisions of the Police Act, that once they are aware of any protest, that they are under obligation to protect citizens. The Locus Classicus case of Inspector General of Police and All Nigerian People's Party in 2008 has already settled this matter, that police permit is not needed whatsoever for citizens to exercise their constitutional guaranteed right of freedom of assembly, vice versa, and that simply expressed that citizens have the right at any time that they so desire to hit the street and protest grievances against the government. And there is no gainsaying the fact that these rights cannot be derogated from. The exceptions that can warrant derogation of these rights are contained in the Constitution. That is maybe in cases of, like we witnessed during the COVID breakdown, maybe if there's a cholera outbreak or any health issues and other sundry issues that have been declared and stipulated in the Constitution, and none of those instances have arisen. It's unconstitutional. It's a brazen attack on our constitutional democracy for the Lagos Commissioner to have been quoted that the protest that protesters cannot exercise their franchise, and their right to protest peacefully. It's also an assault on the judiciary, because there's already a decided case at the Court of Appeal. So in other crimes, the Lagos State Commissioner of Police will have been relieved of his duty and his job, but he still has a job. It's an aberration of some sort that he still has a job, even as at 5 p.m. today, after the brazen attack on our constitutional democracy in Lagos. The attack also on peaceful protesters in Abuja by tear gassing them is a flagrant abuse. It's a flagrant abuse of our constitution, and the decided case that I just referenced earlier.
Okay, in 2020, the EndSARS protesters had specific demands. 4 years later, what's your assessment of how far government has gone with meeting those demands, particularly the clause that persons who had been detained and all of them, who had been brutalized should either be compensated and persons in detention should be released. As at the year 2022, over 40 persons were still in detention.
Yes, it's such a huge shame, really, that when other nations are making technological advancements, going to the moon, going to the space, and other scientific innovations, that we are still in 2024. All we are still talking about is right violations, which we had witnessed during all kinds of protests in this country, from the Aba Women's Riot to the Ali Must Go, to the Enugu coal miners strike, to the June 12, to the EndSARS, to the End Bad Governance, that this is what we are still deliberating and discussing in 2024, when people are already living, in outer space and exploring scientific innovations, and it is truly shameful that none of the recommendations of the various panels, whether it be in the Lagos, Abuja, and other panels, Port Harcourt, and all that, have been fully implemented. That the only thing that was done was the political suspension or disbandment of the criminal SARS unit. But the police have continued to operate with impunity of some sort. I wouldn't say that, yes, there is not some give and take here and there, but by and large, the struggle for de-escalation, the struggle for de-radicalization of Nigerian police from being a police force that intimidates, a police force that harasses people, has not been achieved. And the other issues that form the reason, the basis upon which the NSAS campaign was started, that people lost their lives for, have also not been met. That is issues around injustice, issues around restorative justice, compensations for family victims. Many of the protesters are still in custody. This is a serious embarrassment to our constitutional democracy.
Okay, look, journalists also suffer. It was only this week that in Lagos State, the coroner's inquiry into the murder of Pelumi Onifade began, a 20-year-old journalist who was killed somewhere around Agege, a suburb of Ikeja. Now, for 4 years, the mother says the body has not been found. Nobody knows where the body is. And I guess there are many other persons like that, people who died because Nigeria happened to them. Now, in Lagos State, compensation had been paid to quite a number of people. How do we prevent this kind of needless waste of lives just because the people are protesting against brutality or hunger or brutality, as it were?
Yes, very simple, that officers who are responsible must be dismissed, because when bad behavior goes with no punishment, then impunity persists. Look at today in Abuja. Protesters were protesting peacefully at the Eagle Square. Police just attacked them for no just cause. The officer who was in charge of that team ought to have lost his job. The Lagos police commissioner who attacked protesters and subsequently arrested them should have lost his job. The people who killed Pelumi and others in Lagos and in other parts of the country, should not have a job by now. That is the only way that we can protect human rights and safeguard citizens' rights generally in our country. That when people get away with bad behavior, then impunity persists. Then people don't take, because you have to create some form of deterrence for officers, so that they can be able to see that, yes, when the wrong thing is done, there will be repercussion, and that there will be disciplinary actions, that will follow. If this is not done, then the situation that we witnessed during SARS, where citizens were gunned down in broad daylight, and people come to the panels to even justify it. People were waving flags at the toll gate, singing the national anthem, and in broad daylight, when the whole world was watching via live stream, people were shot, and people came to the panel to justify that.
Well, there are two sides to every story. Now, journalists were arrested, journalists were brutalized, persons were killed. But you recall that policemen too lost their lives. I mean, how about the families of those policemen, the police stations where the protesters, set, cells ablaze, destroyed government property, all the buses in Lagos State provided for easing transportation in Lagos. Now, that's like impunity at one level, responding to impunity at another level. On this occasion of the anniversary of NSAS, do you have a word to say to all the policemen, some of them innocent, who lost their lives, their wives and children, who lost their beloved ones? Nobody talks about that side of the narrative.
Yes, basically, security of life and property is the primary responsibility of government as encapsulated in Section 14 of our Constitution. When there's a breakdown of law and order in any society, the government is to blame. The police, the army, the SSS, who are supposed to gather intelligence, they fail the nation, they fail the citizens. So it is not citizens' responsibility to protect fellow citizens. It is the security agency's responsibility to protect citizens in the country, because this is why taxpayers pay them to keep them safe. So there is a complete breakdown of law and order in the country. The right and the appropriate authority to blame is the security agency. So first, we must put the blame where the blame ought to be. And that is that the security agencies failed to protect citizens during NSAS. They also failed to protect their own security personnel and the stations. And we saw during NSAS that we must not forget that government were the one that sponsored thugs in order to attack peaceful protesters. There is no single peaceful protester, no single NSAS protester who attacked a policeman. In fact, they were giving police officers and other security agencies water and food and drinks, soft drinks as a sign of good gesture towards them. It was the thugs that were recruited by the security agencies and the government at that time that attacked and killed innocent protesters. We saw security vans, including police vans here in Abuja, in Kubwa, in many parts of Abuja, in Apo, dropping off thugs. The videos are still on the internet and they are still fresh in our memory. Dropping off thugs to attack peaceful protesters. You know, the security agencies colluded with armed thugs to unleash mayhem on the citizenry. And those things that were done, they were done with the aim of, putting a stop to the NSAS protest. Generally, they tried all kinds of strategy to stop the protest because they felt Buhari, the then president, even said that the NSAS protest was a regime change.
Anyway,
So they felt that it was a regime change and they needed to quell the protest. So that was why all those things happened. And they used non-state actors to unleash violence on the nation so that they can have justification to say that the protest had turned violent.
Okay, Deji, we have a video on, what happened in Lagos. Let's take that shot very quickly, and then I'll come back to you as we wrap up this conversation.
Police people come here and start harassing us. I need it right now. We ask again, when the right to commemorate the dead and become illegal criminalized in this country, when the mayor has to mark the passing, brothers and sisters who were brutally killed 4 years ago and they let it go.
Okay, that's the video from Lagos early this morning when the protesters were arrested. Is it similar to what happened in Abuja? It looks like in Abuja, it was just tear gas. Nobody was rushed into...
yes, protesters were just attacked in Abuja and dispersed forcefully for no just cause, basically. It's like... the government saying that to hell with the constitution, to hell with rule of law, that the only reason is that, people cannot protest. I don't understand what kind of a constitutional democracy we are running, and the level of lack of decorum, about constitutional norms, judicial precedent that has been set in the country. This particular government does not just give a damn about doing the right thing. There is no even any intention to pretend that we are running a constitutional democracy. So they don't want protest of any kind, whether it be end bad governance protests, whether it be NSAS Memorial, they just don't want any protest of any sort. And that's why one is not surprised. This is the same clueless government that has charged and bad governance protests for treason and continue to enable the Buhari regime continuous detention of NSAS protesters in custody. And we have a man in the villa who was a perpetual protester himself. And he does not see anything wrong in all these constitutional violations.
Well, thank you very much, Deji Adeyanju, for joining us on this Day Live, this Sunday talk show. Thank you indeed for your insights and for your time.
Leaves are falling, and so are the prices, with 40% off fall decor from Hobby Lobby. Cozy up your...
So as Harry said, the reason why they hate him, or the...
Hello, everyone. Greetings to you. How's everybody doing? Can I have now? Hi, everything. How you doing? What's up? Welcome, happy Monday. This big goof for this retreat. Hey, they've done so many spaces on this street. It's crazy. But you know what? I understand. I get it. I completely understand. I think Peter Obi, he messed up on that tweet. That was so unnecessary. Some of the characterizations that he used for this man was unnecessary. He could have just said happy birthday and just kept it moving. Simple. You cannot, somebody that, I get and I understand the diplomatic aspect of it, right? Where he's trying to play. And again, he's not a regional candidate. Peter Obi is not a regional candidate. He's a president. He's a candidate trying to run the entire country. If he's going to be president in Nigeria, he's going to be president over the good, the bad, and the ugly. But you see, the landscape we have in Nigeria is such that you have to acknowledge the hurt of people. A lot of people have been hurt in that country. Matter of fact, there's no tribe that hasn't been hurt. But we understand that the Biafran fight has been ongoing. And these are things that are still fresh in the minds of generations after. So there's a way you could have, I don't know if his tweet goes through enough hands to look and say, okay, it's okay, let's go ahead and shoot it out. I don't know if people pay attention, the people around him pay attention to what goes on Twitter. Because Twitter has been made up, there's been so much bigotry. If at all, it was for that purpose alone, he could have written that tweet in a different way, right? A simple happy birthday would have been okay. You could have added my most respected senior Edera Boda, or however way. You know how people be treated. That's it. All that eulogizing was unnecessary because it was like spitting in the faces of your people, like throwing somebody under the bus. At least that's how it felt, But I do understand the fact that he's a national leader, right? So there'll be people who, you have to understand too, for those who are very upset about this whole tweet thing, you also have to understand that there'll be people who will not see it from your own angle, right? Yes. There'll be people who will say, well, he's not a regional leader, he's a national leader. Okay? So I know I saw some tweets of people saying, no, we're not going to give you your vote. We're going to make sure, our Eastern brothers doesn't, that's not going to work. Because where somebody that is loved. And the Northerners have come out and said, people don't give him the vote, we will give him the vote. And by the way, let me just say this. We are playing in the South. The Northerners are strategically preparing. We are playing in the South, man. The Northerners understand. They understand politics more than us in the South. We have to give that to them. These people are working behind the scenes. They are making moves. I don't know. The South is so divided. Everybody, you are this, you are not this. Bigotry is thriving in the South. Bigotry. I'm inclined to say that this bigotry looks like it's being funded because the way it's going is crazy. Almost like every group is fighting every group in the South, which is unnecessary and very stupid. We have bigger fights to fight. We have bigger fish to fry. Everybody for South, this one, Yoruba this, Igbo this, Benin this one that, Ido this, Naija Delta this. It's crazy. Meanwhile, not just they plan, they put things in place. If you see the moves the North is making, hey, God, I beg. No. South, una go sit down. Una say na go school, omo forget, school not be intelligence. School not equal to wisdom at all. Una no know wetin una dey do for South. You guys are just busy being divided. Meanwhile, the North is making money moves, man. Look at them having meetings every weekend to discuss way forward, how they're going to strategize, who they need to talk to. Meanwhile, the South people are busy insulting each other's great-grandparents, insulting each other's ancestors, as if you people are there. I don't understand. Naija Matter, sometimes it go be like say, may I just shut down everything, just go stay for one island, abandon everything. We cannot move forward like this. And their children growing up in this mess. The country is so upside down. People's lives are consistently being damaged every day. God damn. Man. If we have now my sister, Nigeria, not bole you, not bole you, my sister. Make we rest when we need to. But you see this matter, we got to Nigeria Matter, we have to keep talking about it. Unfortunately, because our country, who else, if we not talk about it, who will talk about it? If we not fight, who will fight? That is the part only they see for this. Sometimes I go, like today, I didn't feel like coming out. I really, honestly did not feel like. But I said, let me just add my 2 cents. Let me just play some of these videos because I saw them earlier on in the day. Because the truth is, if we don't fix our home, nobody's going to come fix it. Nobody cares. If we say we fold hands, it's just going to we say it's worse now. Just imagine we fold our hands and nothing happens. Almost that country will be turned to desert. And before you know it, they will remain it to belong to you again. Where we want to start from? Where we want to start from? So now waiting me to see for the matter. I don't know. But I just think that is everybody where they vest for PO if he handle them, because he himself, he don't use him out talk, say he welcomes criticism. And we not go like everything when he do. So everybody, if you're not angry, if you're upset, vent. He's hearing you. I'm sure he's going to address it at some point. Trust PO. And again, I don't think that, for people who say, he doesn't have to say anything, he doesn't have to explain anything. Yes, he does. Because in New Nigeria, we're trying to build, leaders are accountable to their citizens. Not be the one they do for Nigeria, where we say the citizens are slaves, while the politicians may be okay. No, that's not how it's supposed to be. That's why we're in the mess that we're in. Better believe that. So yes, it is good that he comes out to explain himself. That's what we want. He's a human being. We put him there. Just like when he becomes president, this is the power of the people. When you choose your candidate, when you choose your own president, you have some, at least you get mouth, you fit talk. This is what it's like when the real democracy is working. This is what it looks like. You can call out, you see, America for here, they go call out their president. Even when they ask a question, they ask you strong question, your face type question. You understand? We have to get to that place in Nigeria. We cannot continue like this. There are children growing up right now that don't understand what good governance looks like. That's why when people travel overseas, they're getting into all kinds of trouble because they're coming from a system that does not work. They don't know what a working system looks like. This is why we can't continue like this. So we certainly can. And I hear there's heightened insecurity in Kaduna. They are buying people up and down. Nobody's talking about it. The news, not they carry and nothing they happen. Yeah? And then on the other hand, Bobrisky, they try and run through semi border. You see, they don't acquit them of all the charges. This is the Nigeria that you guys this is the Nigeria now that we are currently experiencing. Person when release video, when you do all the things, nothing, when they're not, you know, even stay prison, they put her for flat, they still acquit her. Hey, God. We can't keep quiet, though. We cannot get tired. We have to do our part. Now, my part I did do, so I not fit do pass like this. I did tell now I can't do more than this. Now, where my power reach, now they do and reach. But say, if I see evil, I must talk. I must talk. Because when you see evil and you not talk, you keep quiet, then that means you're complacent. That means you're part of it. That means you like what's going on. And I can't, you know? So, I don't know. That the times when I can't drop for here and those videos, we're probably going to have time, more time, sometime in the week. But like I said, and I just drag myself, can't do this one today because I'm a bit tired, you know? So, guys, thank you so much. Please, I'm not saying don't criticize Peter Obi. That's okay. The man can take it. After all, he has said, you know, come tell me. I'm open to criticism. So let him tell him how you feel. But at the same time, don't throw him also under the bus and start saying, "Oh, I will not give him my," because you don't know. He's still the hands down the best candidate we got. Until something changes. For me personally, if there's an election 2027, I have said it. My person will carry fire for head when get these people support, when know what he need to do and the problem where we need to solve now go follow. If Peter Obi can't go fire for him head 2027, it don't complete. I don't need to look any further. But if somebody emerges that we don't know yet, that comes out and has all these things, someone that person I support. So understand that Peter Obi is a human being and he will make mistakes. Okay? So we can criticize him and say everything we want to say, but that does not mean you should now denigrate the man and turn him into a punching bag. I beg. But I see a lot of people, they talk. If the ones say they get bad belly, the ones say they say, hey, we are waiting for the shoe to fall from the other leg from him. Now, I feel like say, yeah, got you moment. Nah, you didn't got nothing. If you got nothing, you know they buy petrol at 1,300. So got that first before you are getting Peter Obi. Okay? Peter Obi not be he will never suffer. His generation will never suffer. Now you know they see better water drink. Now you know see light, electricity not do your house. Peter Obi he don't know what that problem look like. He has so much is giving out. So please, I beg, get upset if you need to, speak your mind when you need to, but that does not mean that you should disrespect the man. Like I see some of you doing, disrespecting, calling him all kinds of names. He not rich like that. And them on a chill. All right, guys. I'll see you guys on my next one. I'll leave it here for now. Thank you so much for joining me. Kenny, thank you very much as always. Priceless Ify, my sister of life. I greet you specially. Take care, my sister. No worry. We go reach the promised land. We will see a working Nigeria in our lifetime. So now that one, look, we continue to work towards them. Do the best we can. Rest when you're tired. Come back. We got work to do. All right. On that note, have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you guys on my next one. Bye.